All right, well, today's keynote speaker is our very own Ray DeCiccio, and without further ado, I'll hand over the baton to Ray, and he'll get us kicked off here.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to try to share screen here. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Well, I will share my screen then, because I have your PowerPoint downloaded right here.
Okay.
On my screen.
That's good.
And you just tell me next slide, and I will move the slide for you, all right?
You're good. There's not that many slides, so it'll work good.
All right, let's see. Share. Oh gosh, gotta open system preferences to do this. Hold on one second. I have to give permission to do it.
So
that, but if I go here and do share, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. There it is. Good. Okay. Very good. Okay, so can you see that, Ray? Is that good?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
You're probably going to have to hit slideshow though.
Let's see.
Yes, on
slides. Got to give me 1 second.
I'm on this meeting. Got a Rotary meeting going.
So
here and let's
there we go. So I often hesitate to talk about this topic. It's sort of like politics and religion. You know, it's everybody has their own opinions about and strong opinions about health and wellness, and it can get pretty sticky. But the thing that happened to me was about 10 years ago. I took care of my dad for the last 3 years of his life, and he was a big strapping steel worker. You know, he was a millwright. He fixed machines in the mill, and you know, he was always pretty healthy and larger than life. And then about 74, his heart conditions, he had a triple bypass, and you know, his health started going downhill after that. And after my mother passed away, he came out here to live with me for 3 years. And what I witnessed was really difficult for me. He really had a hard time. He ended up in a wheelchair because he ended up with diabetes, and he had neuropathy so bad that he couldn't walk. And so someone's ringing my doorbell. So he had neuropathy so bad he couldn't walk, so he was in a wheelchair. And then he ended up being on oxygen because he was 40 pounds overweight, and he had cardiovascular disease to the point that you know, that he really couldn't breathe right. So he needed oxygen, and so he ended up for the last 3 years of his life living in a wheelchair and having these tubes and just really struggling. I mean, he lived to be 88, but the last 10 years of his life was really a struggle. He used to always say, you know, you have to be tough to get it to grow old. And I witnessed that. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, but somebody's knocking at the door. Anyway, I learned a lot from that experience because I look a lot like my dad, and I'm built like him, and you know, genetically, I'm just like him. And I could just imagine when he got here, I tried everything that I could in order to try to help him, you know, get well or get better. And I really didn't know much. And I started looking into health and wellness at that time, but I wish I knew then what I know now, because you know, particularly the 5 years after he passed away, I got connected to some people and learned so much about health and wellness and about heart attack and stroke prevention and cardiovascular disease that I think I could have been of more help with the knowledge that I'd gotten after those 5 years. And so after watching him go through all of that, and I decided that, I wanted to do something to help other people. And so I got connected to a doctor here in San Marcos who's since passed away, but he was a naturopathic doctor, and we started this heart attack and stroke prevention program, and we connected with a organization in Idaho. Yes, yeah. Go ahead and move the slide. We connected with this organization in Idaho, and they had done so much research on cardiovascular disease and heart attack and stroke prevention, and they had written these manuals on how to reverse cardiovascular disease. And so we connected with them and started this heart attack and stroke prevention program. And he was the doctor, and I had, by that time, I had become a health and wellness coach, and was an ASW, or an associate social worker. And so we started this program, and through that process of connecting with these people in Idaho, I learned so much more about health and wellness. And we started this program, and what he would do is, go ahead to the next slide. We did the research, and we found out that cardiovascular disease was the #1 killer in the United States. 34% of all the deaths in the United States are attributable to cardiovascular disease. And there's almost as many deaths attributable to pulmonary disease. But almost 70% of all our healthcare costs in the United States are related to chronic diseases. And four of those chronic diseases that make up 90% of chronic disease are cardiovascular disease, chronic pulmonary disease, cancer, and diabetes too. So, and those are chronic diseases that tend to, once you get them, they tend to get worse and worse over time and last, for a long time. And I'm sure, normally when I do a talk like this, I would ask the crowd, how many people know somebody who died from cardiovascular disease, or died of a heart attack or a stroke? And usually, 9/10 of the crowd raised their hand. So somebody close to them in their family, everybody's been affected by these diseases, these chronic diseases. And, we're learning a lot more about chronic disease, and especially cardiovascular disease. And in fact, now at the Cleveland Clinic, they're saying that that our whole approach over the last 30 years has been misguided. That lowering LDL cholesterol with is questionable. And what they're finding out is that the levels of cholesterols that they say clinically are problematic are right at the border point where they're going to cause problems. And so for a lot of people, you may be clinically okay on cholesterol according to their statistics, but it may be causing you lots of problems physically over time. And the same thing with diabetes. They say, 120 is okay. Well, in reality, now that they're finding that when your sugar should be 100 or less, and that the clinical cutoff of 120 is really when you're already in trouble. And so these clinical cutoff points are problematic. And the Cleveland Clinic folks found out that this approach with taking statins, and taking statins only, and taking large doses of statins really doesn't help. And then sometimes it even aggravates the problem. You want to go to the next slide? So there's been a lot of science, and there's a lot of it that's you can find on public television. There's quite a bit of information out there on the web. But the science of wellness is really blossoming in the last 5 to 10 years. And it's twofold. It's blossoming in the field of medicine, and it's blossoming in the field of psychology. So in medicine, they've created this whole new field called functional medicine. And they're finding out that our whole system of medicine, where we're focusing on, well, where's the problems? What are the symptoms? Let's relieve the symptoms, or let's find out what organ is causing those symptoms, and let's either repair that organ or remove that organ. And they're finding out that that's really not sufficient, that the body is an integrated system, and everything that happens in the body affects the other organs. And there's this whole systemic thing that has to be considered when you're looking at medical problems. And if any of you have ever done electrical repairs or electronic repairs, you know that you could be working with, let's say a transistor that is bad. And so you take that transistor out and you put another one in, and shortly that transistor is gone too, because there may be some other higher voltage or higher amperage in some other pathway that causes that transistor to go out. And that happens in very complicated ways in electronics. So you really have to take a look at the whole piece of equipment that you're looking at. And that's really the way the body operates, that the cardiovascular system is tied to the gastronomical system, and it's tied to the pulmonary system, and it's tied to your psychology. And so this new area of functional medicine is starting to gain more and more information about how one system affects the other. And when you're looking at symptoms in one system, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only system where the problem exists. And also in functional medicine, they're finding out that there's a lot of genetic diseases, genetic causes, causal factors to some of these diseases. And they're starting to be able to identify the genes that are problematic. But what they also found out was that there's often ways where you can turn that gene off and on. So just because you have a certain gene doesn't mean that it's been expressed or not. It can mean that it's not being expressed. And so you can turn these genes off and on. And so a lot of times when you have medical problems that are genetic, there are things that you can do in other systems of your body to make that gene be unexpressed or not expressed, or turn it off. So this is a real exciting field of functional medicine that includes epigenetics. And they're also finding that alongside of that, the brain and the parts of the central nervous system that are in the gut and the backbone, in the spinal cord, are really important in affecting the functional medicine and all the systems of the body. And so the psychology is important to coordinate with the physical medicine in order to get the best results. And so what they're finding is that, in psychology, there's what they call neuroplasticity. And so once we've developed certain habits or ways of doing things, ways of thinking, we create these neural pathways that fire off, that make our brain do the same things over and over again. And when we want to change those neural pathways, they used to think that the brain was completely finished developing by the age of 13 or 14, and you couldn't never create neural pathways. And now what they're finding with neuroplasticity is that the brain has the power to create new neural ganglia and new neural pathways. And so if you take the right kinds of approaches, you can actually change the way these neurotransmitters travel through your brain and give messages to your body, and change the way your body oversees these different systems in your body. And, one of the results of that is this whole field of positive psychology that's come out over the last 13 or 14 years, where, they found that people who have positive attitudes about health, positive thinking about health, positive actions about health, positive emotions about health, they're actually much healthier overall, and they have less disease. And so through finding that research, they're starting to make some of these connections and figure out how they can use psychology and functional medicine to address some of these chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and strokes, or pulmonary disease, or diabetes, especially diabetes, and even cancer. So next slide. So these functional diseases that cause 70% of our healthcare costs are really affected by three major processes in the body. Oxidation, which is the creation of free radicals in the body, and it's almost like rusting. So the body kind of ages in a way that there's free radicals that need to be satisfied, and there's no oxygenated radicals to reduce that. And so this oxidation is almost like a rusting, and it's very much connected to the ability to for the immune system to address things like cancer and even cardiovascular disease. Now I'll connect those two in a minute. But the other process that aggravates and causes these chronic diseases is inflammation. So even low-grade inflammations like gum disease or chronic inflammation like arthritis, allowing pain to go on and on and on and on. These low-grade inflammations actually increase the amount of oxidation, and more importantly, they oxidation and inflammation contribute to the buildup of plaque. And plaque is the buildup of cholesterols in the arteries and veins, and in the brain also, and in the central nervous system. So there's a variety of different kinds of plaques, like amyloid plaques accumulate in the brain, and arterial plaques accumulate in the arteries. And what happens in the arteries are really, really smooth when you're born on the insides. And as time goes on, the insides of the arteries and veins get nicked and cut, and that allows for cholesterols to kind of glom onto these cut areas and then build up and restrict the blood flow and restrict a lot of the oxygen that goes to the different systems in the body and causes problems. It's particularly in the arteries, this buildup of plaque it causes a lot of problems. It helps in the process of developing diabetes 2, and the buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain also help develop the process of dementia, which is a huge problem now. We've always thought that these things, oxidation, inflammation, buildup of plaque, were things that we could never do anything about. It's just a normal part of the aging process. But like the first slide said, that there are things that we can do to slow down these processes, to stop the processes, and even to reverse some of them to a certain degree. Next slide. but it's not an easy thing to do. The way we did it in our heart attack and stroke prevention program was um, we actually had an early detection CIMAT, which is a imaging technology that's computerized and could actually read the amount of plaque. It could show you the amount of plaque in your carotid arteries and in which branch of those arteries the plaque was building up, so it could tell whether you were more likely to have a stroke or more likely to have a heart attack. But it could actually not only tell that that plaque was there, but measure the plaque, and the computerized technology could give you a risk level. And so we were able to tell people at what level of risk they were for heart attack and stroke. And then we would give them a expanded lipid profile, which is called a VAP test, which is something that any one of you can ask for. And that VAP test doesn't just tell you what's going on with the top 4 cholesterols. It tells you what's going on with all 12 cholesterols in your body. It tells you what size your cholesterols are, because the smaller the cholesterols are, the easier it is for them to get trapped in these little divot cracks in the inside of your veins. And so between the blood test and the early detection sonogram, we really had a good picture at what risk people were at. And so we would bring them into the office and give them this information show them the picture of their carotid artery, and show them the results of their VAP test, and tell them at what risk level they were at. Next slide, please. And then they would say, well, what can we do about that? Well, the reality is that trying to do something about the buildup of plaque after it's built up and to change your cholesterol profile is no easy thing. It's very, very difficult. It takes a lot of effort and time, and it's extremely hard to do, because it means changing your diet, it means changing your way you exercise, it means changing your stress levels. There's all kinds of these things that you've heard out there that if you change them all and go into a whole new way of being, then you can really make a difference. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard, Dr. Hyman, the sugar doctor on KPBS, or Dr. Amen, the brain doctor, or Dr. Furman, the heart doctor. That they have these programs, but
Yeah, you do.
they found out, and what I found out, what Dr. Shima and I found out, was that it's very, very difficult for people to actually make all of these changes and reverse these processes. So that's why we started really investigating the psychological part of this, and we found out that that there's in positive psychology, there are wellness coaches that can help you actually make these changes piece by piece, and over not too long of time, help you change your whole way of eating and living, and your stress levels and everything. So we were trying to help these people see the problem that they had by giving them a visual of their plaque, giving them the levels of plaque, their cholesterol through the VAP test, and then telling them about functional medicine, and how if we can change things in one system of the body, it helps change other systems of the body, and these things build up, and you can actually make changes that reverse, that stop the cause of plaque, and actually slowly reverse the plaque buildup. But like they found out, we found out that it's very, very difficult to keep people on these regimens. Now, one reason why I brought this back up the last couple of years is because one of the things that's happened, one of the things that we would do is we would offer them professional coaching, to help them deal with these lifestyle changes. And 9 times out of 10, they would say, oh, I know I don't need a coach. I can do this myself. I know what the problem is. And these are people who were engaged in their health. They were really wanted to do something, but inevitably 100% of them would stray off the wagon and not really do enough, not go far enough to really make a difference. But now, I don't know if any of you have heard of Noom. It's an application that you can get on your phone. It's spelled Noom, and it takes some of the principles of this positive psychology, and you can, if you learn a little bit about coaching and how behavior change and how to make SMART goals, short, small, specific, measurable, achievable goals that are focused on, getting to the diet that would be really helpful, and getting to the exercise level that would be really helpful, and getting to the stress levels that would be really helpful, that, you can actually be more successful. And so this application called Noom can actually help you do that without actually hiring a coach to help you. So go to the next slide. So you can actually empower yourself to make these changes. And there's ways that you can, you can find out if you have plaque buildup in your arteries, and you can ask for this VAP test. It's not that expensive. So, the bottom line is the change is hard, and less than 10% of at-risk patients really achieve lasting, healthy lifestyle changes, and that's being generous, because it is very difficult. But there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of help. This application, this app can help a lot. But we have a lizard brain inside of our big brain, and that lizard brain is really, makes decisions based on emotions like fear and excitement. And so, we really have to, you have to overcome that lizard brain. And the only way I know how to do it is being involved with this positive psychology and coaching, and some of these new apps that can help you make small changes, set small goals, and move forward in a intentional direction. The other thing on top of that is that our modern lifestyle is not really helpful. There's so many pollutants in the air, so many processed foods. We have, can you go back to the last slide for just a second? I'm sorry. The nutrition is not what it used to be 60 years ago or 80 years ago. Modern life is a lot more stressful, and stress is a big issue. Depression causes more chronic disease, gives you a higher risk for chronic disease. And so depression and stress and anxiety are big problems, and they all go along with this modern lifestyle that we have. And plus we have all these toxins coming from the freeways and everywhere around us. Not that, that we shouldn't have modern lifestyle, but we have to understand that that's what happens. We have, as a result of modern life, we have poor nutrition than we did 80 years ago. We have less physical activity. I don't know if any of you have seen those specials on KPBS where they go and look at people where lots of people live past 90 and past 100. And like one of the places is Sardinia, Italy. And they go up into these communities to find out why these people live to be 95 and 100 and 105. And what they find out is they do a lot of walking. They eat a lot of fresh foods, especially vegetables and leafy vegetables. They live a stress-free lifestyle, and there's not very many toxins in those places. So, all of this information is kind of getting together. Next slide, please. If you even want to take a look at any of this information, positive psychology was started by Dr. Seligman at the Pennsylvania University about 14 or 15 years ago. He's very famous, and he was the president of the American Psychological Association at the time. And he was the one who decided it's not good enough to just study, what our mental health problems are. We need to study people who flourish and who are healthy and well and, do well in life. And through that research, he got researchers all over the world to help him. They found out, they are still finding out more and more about how the psychology can help us live a better life, a more positive life, a more exciting life, healthier life, and even more successful. We're finding out that there's differential motivations, that there are motivations that come from inside of us, that we want to be a better person, or we want to be a better father, we want to be a better brother, we want to have a better relationship with our wife or our sons or daughters. And these kinds of motivations are really they really help us move forward and achieve our goals. But what we mostly consider and look at are extrinsic goal motivations. We want we want a house, or we want a car. These are all great things, but they don't provide the power that intrinsic motivation does. And we're also finding through the science that mindfulness is really a big deal in all health. That meditation can help every disease. Self-compassion is, a new field that is really producing a lot of great results in helping people deal with depression and anxiety. Depression and anxiety, they're number one and number two mental health problems, and both of them negatively influence our health. And there's other things like Qigong and Tai Chi and all of those things that, we're discovering how they connect with our body and our physical health and our mental health. So all these things tied together. Next slide, if there is one. There might not be one.
I don't think there is.
Okay, so all these things tie together, and there's lots of information out there, and because of our our smartphones and the internet, we can find out a lot of this information, and we can pass it on to our children and our grandchildren, and we can also lead healthier lives ourselves. And for me, it's like I remember my dad going through that the last 8 or 10 years of his life, and I don't want to go out that way, and I wouldn't want to see anybody else go out that way. So that's why I do this thing, and I'm open for questions.
Good presentation, Ray. Very nice.
Yeah, very good job, Ray.
Well done.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Ray.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your patience.
Ray, I think President Trump was suggesting possibly using Crest or Listerine in your veins for the tar. Do you think that would be of any advantage?
I know of a few things that will help smooth out those veins, and I can't remember right because I'm a little nervous right now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's taken from grapes.
Called wine.
Hey, I would suggest that book of Dr. Greger, How Not to Die. That's got a lot of great, but it's all based on diet.
Yeah. Yeah, wine must be. I tried that wine early on in my life, and then I did too much of it.
And Ray, it was great information, but I know it was focused on cardiovascular, but the strokes are caused by, neurological too. Absolutely, that was my problem. So by aneurysms, and
Yes.
they're caused, are handled different. But
Right.
it's good information on
Right.
your lifestyle. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Ray, on that VAP test, you said anybody can do it. Is it something you go to the doctor, or something you do
You
at
go-
home, kit, and you send it in, or?
Get your doctor, because you need a doctor to read it. And so you want to talk to your doctor and say, have you heard of the VAP test? I mean, do you use it? And can you order it for me? And if they say why, it's because you say, I'm concerned about my cholesterol. And, I know that this test can tell me more about my cholesterol. Have you ever read the test? Have you ever used it? There's lots and lots of doctors that have, and they know how to read it. But I would look it up on the internet first, so that you get some idea of, what they're actually measuring in this test, and get some idea of why to take it. So when you go to your doctor, you can have some response. Most insurance companies will pay for it if you got a good reason.
Well, thank you.
I thought it was interesting you were saying how much the mental aspect of your health can impact the physical aspect of your health a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like with stress and anxiety. I know, like for me, I was trying to figure out what was causing me a lot of anxiety in my life. And it turns out, I think it was social media. There's a lot of pressure to be, especially at my age and in college, there's a lot of pressure to have people see you in a certain way, whether you mean to or not. It's just a background thing that happens. And so for about a month and a half, I deleted Instagram and all my other social media. And it
Right.
actually was really refreshing. I felt a whole lot more mentally clear and a whole lot less weight on my shoulders. And I've since re-downloaded one of those apps just because it's a great way for me to connect with my friends. But I was able to kind of check myself and figure out where I should be using those platforms and where I can check back on them so that it's not causing me as much of a burden.
When you say a month and a half, it takes about 6 weeks for the brain to begin to build new neural pathways.
Mm.
Once you get addicted to gaming or social media or gambling, your brain creates these neural pathways that reward that behavior. And so what you did was really smart. I mean, it's shut it down and replace it with something else, whatever you were doing, and your brain creates these new neural pathways. Now, it doesn't mean that if you go back to using social media or go back to gambling, that the brain's not going to pick up those neural pathways real quick again. So, you have to be careful, but you did exactly the right thing in shutting it down and allowing your brain to make some new neural pathways and create new habits and new ways of your brain rewarding you with dopamine.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing I would share as well with everybody, if you have an iPhone, there's a great app that's on there. It's called Screen Time, and you can set it up to give you a reminder at the end of the week of how much you've used each application on your phone and for how long. So if you're actively trying to do better with like not being addicted to watching Netflix all the time or YouTube or whatever it may be for you, or Facebook or whatever it is, it can remind you and say, hey buddy, you spent an hour extra on Facebook than you should have this week. Like, so you can check yourself.
Yes.
That's what I've been doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like that. And there's this new Noom application because it uses positive psychology, methods and strategies to help people, set goals that are really achievable, and how help you develop strategies. And when you run across challenges or barriers, it helps you get around those. So there's good things about technology, and and there's problematic things. So I guess there's probably not really time for me to play any music. But.
Oh, well, we've got time. I know our normal Rotary meetings usually go to about 1 o'clock, and we've got 15 minutes if you wanna serenade us.
What do you guys think? You okay?
Yeah, you guys want to hear Ray's performance? He's going to perform for us if you guys got time.
Sure.
Do we have to pay for this?
I heard Kevin's going to do the encore. He's going to swing "See Sweet Caroline" for us.
As a GI, you got a haircut, obviously, but you look like a young kid in the boot camp.
Okay. So I play, lately I've been trying to play more 30s and 40s music, you know, Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett and all that stuff. But there's some songs from the 40s that, like for instance, Eric Clapton picked up. And I like this song, even though it's from the 30s and 40s, I like the way Eric Clapton did it. So it's called a song called Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. In your pocket, not one penny. As for friends, you ain't got any now. When you get back on your feet again, everybody wants to be your long lost friend. But it says without any doubt, nobody knows you when you're down and out. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. In your pocket, not one penny. As for friends, you ain't got any now. When you get back on your feet again, everybody wants to be your long lost friend. I say it straight without any doubt. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. Oh yeah.
All right.
Get a little nervous there.
That was great.
Got time for one more?
Fantastic. Oh yeah, keep going.
Let's see. I heard Michael Bublé do this one, but Louis Armstrong did it. A lot of people have done it. Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in a sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Say night and night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you miss me. While I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on, dear. Still craving, I'm craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying this. until sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, you got to make a promise to me. You dream a little dream of me. I messed that one up.
Sounded great to me. I thought that sounded great.
Let's see. This one I like because Charlie Chaplin wrote it, and I think Nat King Cole made it popular. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile through your fears and sorrow. Smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll see that life is still worthwhile if you just time, you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll see that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. That's it. You have enough?
That was great, Ray. I think everyone is cheering for you. I just have everyone on mute so that they didn't interrupt your performance. If you were wondering what the silence was for, we all loved it.
Dan, you got to run for your money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for being my guinea pigs. I've never done this before.
That was great. Yeah, it looks like you got the whole setup to be a little bit of a restaurant rock star. You could go and do some performances at some of the restaurants around here.
And then the COVID came.
I know, geez. Yeah. You know, you could start doing Zoom performances though. You could tell the local Rotary clubs you could do some Zoom performances for them for their Zoom meetings.
How does the sound come through?
It sounded really good on my end. It sounded really good. My computer made it sound like you were right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really great.
Thank you.
Well, just like with every speaker we have come into our meetings this year, I've got the Rotary Opens Opportunities challenge coin for you here, Ray. And since you have been coming to a couple of our in-person meetings, you'll probably be the first person to be able to use this challenge coin on me and see if you can catch me without mine. I'll give this to you at our next meeting, and this is our token of our gratitude for you coming in, not only giving us that great lecture, but also that great performance. So round of applause for Ray, everybody.
And Ray, that would make a good ball marker for our next golf tournament.